Hi, this is On It Imagination with the Ethical Asshole, and I am your host, the Salty Bitch. I just finished an article, and when I was done with it, I had this massive, I'm not done with this yet, and I really need to sit down and dig deeper into this one. I was writing an article on trailblazing for my business course, and one of the things I was really diving deep into was looking back at my own journey of trailblazing, what really were the two top things that caused me such problem. And this gets really interesting because just a moment, let me grab my book. Because what was my biggest problem was people getting in the way to tell me that I shouldn't be doing what I was doing. Literally, that was it. It was mind blowing how much these two groups of people were 100% of all of my problems. And if they had not stopped me to waste my time, help, or give me friendly advice, I would have literally been done in a few months. I walked into this with a very clear idea of what I wanted to do, needed to do, had to do. Very, very clear. Like it was not a problem. And between May and September, I set up everything in such a way that it's like, all right, I know what this looks like. And I ended up, one woman took up 6 months of my time. 6 months. And this is a math skill that you're going to have to learn if you decide to venture off onto a journey like this. Anything is you're going to have to learn how to use logic and math to measure people. That's why you learn math and logic, so you can measure people. And once I figured that out and I learned I knew how to measure people, I knew how to measure myself, I knew how to measure knowledge, information, and analysis and data. Once I was able to do all of that, and I realized, I need to also filter people. Once I realized I was dealing with two different types of people, everything went smooth. And those two types of people were vaunters, people claiming it's empty promise. It's saying stuff and not delivering. It's people claiming that they're helpful when they're not. It's people claiming that they have wisdom or knowledge to share, and they don't. Once I learned how to identify and filter those people and ignore the can't doers, it was amazing. A person, one moment, has three resources. Oh, there, no, that's not it. A person has three resources that are your rarest resources. And when I was doing my research on poverty, happiness, and the wealthy, I identified this one massive difference. The wealthy will not squander these resources. The poor act like they are swimming in an abundance of them. It's stupidly insane what they're doing. It is your time, it is your energy, and it is your headspace. These three things are your rarest resources. And the poor burn through them like they've got them dripping out of their ass. Like, no hesitation to squander time or their energy or their headspace. You only have a limited amount of that. And once I learned this was really, of all the things I learned, this was up there with the can't doers and the vaunters. And then the next would be, you need to know about your top 5 priorities. The top 3 priorities are your asset, or not your assets, are your resources. And that is your time, that is your energy, and that is your headspace. You need to protect those things and nourish them like your life depends on it. And until you do, you are not going to be okay. Until you do, you're going to be poor, because those are the 3 things that the wealthy are very protective over. And as soon as I started to protect mine, holy shit, did it change everything in my game. The other thing is, my mind is my greatest asset. And then I set the bar. Well, the bar's always been set real high for me, so that was never a problem. My standards are high. So those standards put that bar for my own mind up high, which meant all the information and data that I had coming into me, also set it up high. So I had the highest of standard for the quality of information going into my mind. And the next one, under all of those four things, is money. And there's one idiom that did come up that actually is gold to me, is a fool and their money are easily parted. That is the most true of all. That is the most true of all idioms, is a fool and their money is easily parted. And the can't doers and the vaunters, if you don't know how to recognize these two groups of people, you're going to have a problem, because the can't doers are going to invest all of their time, energy, and headspace trying to save you from yourself. And that's it. They are trying to save you from yourself. Now, I did not need saving, nor did I want saving. Not at all. And I also learned that during the time period where I complained about my life to my intimate circles, I was attracting saviors. I was attracting people to help me. And I started to realize that the complaining only attracted narcissists. Complaining attracts narcissists, because the people who are not narcissists don't listen to it. They don't want to hear it. They're like, the only one who listens to complaining are narcissists. Like, complaining and narcissists go hand in hand. And I had this one experience. This was really, really interesting. This one experience I had, I was in a group, and it was very much an invested framed mind group. It was extraordinary. I had some massive investors in there, bankers. I had some really powerful people. And this one woman came in, and she literally, mind you, we were all in our 40s. This woman acted like she was 5. I cannot emphasize that enough. She was undisciplined, running all over, mentally ill. And when we were talking about what resources people need, people were like, this is what the project I'm working on, this is the funding that we need. She instead brought up, well, I need to pay my rent. I live with a narcissistic grandmother. And it was like, she acted like a beggar. She acted like a pauper. She acted like an invalid. And in addition to that, she wasted her time, her energy, and her headspace. Now, when you draw this massive line, one real distinct difference is your problem solving abilities, but also your skill development. And another massive thing that I noticed between the rich, the abundant, the successful, the happy, and the poor is the rich focus on skill development. They focus on skill development. The poor people don't. They squander time, energy, headspace instead of using that to skill develop. This was a big difference between the poor and the wealthy. I came from slavery. Like, I was chains. I came from a bad place. I was trafficked for like 5 years. I came from a bad place. And I have seen every type of abuse. I crossed over 2 class systems and 1 stigma, 2 stigmas. I got to see the actual delusion and the bullshit from everything that the poor people are saying. And this is what I learned. Poor people are the biggest vaunters. And that's it, really. They are the biggest frauds. They are the biggest scammers. And they are so good at scamming and being frauds that they've convinced themselves of their own scam. And their scam is they think they're helpless when they're not. Because I've been there. I've been there. I was one of them. And this really is what sets me apart from all the other people in my current circle now, is they didn't come from a place where I came from. They come from something else. They did not come nearly as far as I did. No one did. No one has come as far as I did. So I'm seeing all the bullshit that the poor people are trying to claim. In fact, I had to learn how to overcome it to get to the next level. And then I got to see what it was like being them, as them, among them. And then when I recognized what their holdback was, I changed my behavior. And that got me to the next level. And I went, oh, and then I got to see what it was like being a poor person from a low middle class. And then I did it again. And then I got to see what it was like being a poor person from the high, low, middle class region up to where I am now. And all the steps of the way, I got to see the bullshit and the lies of the poor people. And I saw people who claimed disability and then squandered their time, energy, headspace. I saw people who claimed poverty and incapability and who literally begged all day. That's all they did was beg. And then I also saw other people who didn't complain about it. They spent their time in the library researching on the internet to do skill development. Those are the people who went on. And public libraries are free. Now, when I was down there, when I was in that region of my life, one of the things that I was huge about was, oh, I want to make sure that, I take everyone with me. I want to make sure that they have the opportunities. And that is when I realized they have the opportunities. They are just so believing their own scam that they're not at all doing what the other people are actually doing. And this is what I say is you haven't suffered enough. Because when you reach a certain point of suffering, you get the fuck out. It's that simple. You get the fuck out. So there's people who aren't really suffering because they found a way to enjoy it. They found a way to make the most of it. And they're just not sick of it. So they stay right where they are and they don't go anywhere. They don't move on from there. And then you've got other people who are very much, this is not okay for me. And it depends. It's 100% dependent on where you set your standard. This is all about your standard. If your standard is low, you're never going to go anywhere. If you don't raise the standard, then you're never going to be uncomfortable. And that's what this comes down to is where is your standard set? If your standard is high, it's going to motivate you to get out. If you set your standard low, you're going to stay right where you are. And the people who were getting out, who were doing the skill development and the problem solving to get out of their situation, those were the people who had their standards set high. Now, this is where it got interesting because as I overcame all these obstacles, I realized all the obstacles that they claim are there, their vaunters, aren't there. There is no stigma. There was no man standing there telling me that I'm a girl scientist, therefore I can't. There was no one doing that. There was no one holding me back. It was just in my head. It was just me. And once I learned to get out of my own way, that, I need to first set the standard. Well, that was not hard. I always had the standard set. It was also a knowing the education. And that was really the big part was the education is not there. And that was a huge thing for me was what the hell is going on with the educational system? Why isn't this mainstream education? The fact that poverty is not part of the mainstream, this blows my mind away. This blows my mind away. I'm like, if you want people to be wealthy, then you need to get wealthy people into the schools doing abundant curriculum structures, finance structures, so that the people can learn. But they're not doing that. They're not prioritizing it. And so you have to do a lot of piecemeal and looking for things. Now, in addition, I was taught the skill of literally quality assessment. That's what we'll call it, is quality assessment. This was the most precious skill I developed when I was a child, like 12. By the time I was 15, I had quality assessment mastered. Like I did not have this problem. Quality assessment. And the only time my missions or my agendas or journeys fizzled out is because I lost the standard, because I settled, as in I dropped the standard and I got comfortable. And it ended when I raised the standard. It was extraordinary to watch. You raise the standard and suddenly your comfort level decreases. You lower the standard, your comfort level drops. It was extraordinary. So if you're comfortable with where you are, you just got to raise the standard. As soon as you raise the standard, you're like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. And boy, that motivates you to move. And that's literally you manage and control your standard. And that is everything. And you use this literally with your ethics. You use your ethics and your standards to work together so you can literally set the temperature of your life, of your lifestyle. And that's how it's done. Now, going back over to the can't-doers and the vaunters, there were the can't-doers and the vaunters who got in my way. And those were the first in line to sit there and tell me that I couldn't do what I was doing. Then there was the vaunters trying to tell me that they knew better. It was the waste of my time. And it took me a long time to identify those two groups. Now, once I was able to do that, I was like, okay, now I'm home free. Now, the poor people, the vaunters, the helpless, and we're going to call them the helpless, but they're really not. This is just the way they present themselves to people so they can get more because they're beggars. And once I realized that the helpless, not helpless, they were the people who, I don't know what their agenda was. And this really set me apart is there's that statement, misery loves company. And I think that's it, is it's not misery loves company. Everyone loves company. Everyone loves company. They have chosen to have a low standard. So they're just seeking out their companies. And standards is what sets a person apart. It's the thing that makes a person leave another person. And that's their mindset. They're trapped in this catch-22. And I took all of this into account and I put it in my courses. Now, my courses are free online. My courses are 100% free online. And it's literally an entire walkthrough on how to go from wherever the hell you are to wherever it is you want to go. A full walkthrough. You just got to do it. And still, I watched people, I'm helpless. There's nothing I can do. I built the course on this. Don't tell me that you're helpless because I have a course for you and it's free and it's online. And they still didn't do it. It was extraordinary. It was absolutely mind-blowing. And I think this is really my takeaway on all of this is when I listen to these poor people, vauntless frauds, and they say they were helpless, and I was so moved by their stories that I built literally the walkthrough on how to go from slavery and complete poverty up to wealth, fame, success, abundance, and wealth. They still didn't do it. And that was a wake-up call to me. I went, oh, they're full of shit. Oh, I called their bluff. And that's really what it comes down to is I called their bluff, which is why and when I lost all passion, sympathy, anything to help them. It's because they're full of bullshit. They are absolutely 100% full of bullshit. So now when someone comes to me and says, oh, I'm helpless. No, you're full of shit. You're full of shit because I built the program that you need. It's free and I've eliminated literally every obstacle. And I was worse off than you. So you're full of shit. You're full of shit. I call bullshit. You're a fraud. And once I did that, I lost all empathy for them. I'm like, they're full of fucking shit. I got to see firsthand from all of them how full of shit they are. I saw poor people, homeless people in libraries busting their ass learning. I have interviewed homeless people who were there homeless for 2 years, and boy, did they get the fuck out. No, you are not there. People are not homeless. I'm sorry, not homeless. I misspoke. People are not helpless. People are not helpless. No, I have seen the worst of the worst. I was there. They are full of shit. They're lying to you. They are lying to themselves. And when I realized that, it was a huge, oh, well, now I see their truth. And that's it right there. I see their truth. So when I went through this journey and I looked at the concept of helping people, and this really, there were several sides to this. There were the bullshit people, the fraud poor people claiming that they needed help, and they're full of shit. In addition to that, there was also the people who wanted to help others. And these were my biggest problem, those people, the helpers. My problem with these helpers was they were so, they're people pleasing, but there's more to it than that. They are so ego driven. They help people for their own ego. They help people for their own feel good, not realizing that they are actually part of the cause to the vaunters. So there's like this is really it, is there's a codependent narcissism happening that is absolutely most of the world is blind to. But I've been there. I've been on both sides of that one. So I've seen it and I know it and I cracked it. And I'm like, oh, that's bullshit. No, that's bullshit. And so this is what it is. You've got the people who are they are the we're going to call them good Samaritans. We're going to call them good Samaritans because that is how they present themselves. That is how they felt was, oh, I just love helping people. I just love helping people. No, you do not just love helping people. You have a serious ego trip happening where you feel like you are somebody if you help people. It's very much a love equals being needed, which is actually narcissism. Now, these people are all friendly while they do it, and that's what makes it so much harder is they are friendly, good Samaritans, and they are toxic as hell. Now, the other side of that is the fraud, helpless people. And these are the people who claim that they're helpless when in fact they're not. They are not helpless because they've gotten all the help. It's literally a free walkthrough on ABC. Here's all the resources and they're free and they're still not doing it. So you've got the fraudulent, helpless people and they are the invalid. They are 100% a puppy-eyed invalid. And they have mastered the art of looking helpless to the point where it's the helpless scam. And that's really it. It is the helplessness scam. And then you've got the good Samaritan. Oh, I just love helping people. And I watched these good Samaritans feed and nourish the fraud, helpless people. And they've got this beautiful relationship happening between the good Samaritan and the fraudulent, helpless. And it's just this cycle. And what's extraordinary about this is still narcissism. This is a really freakish version of narcissism that once I identified it, I was like, wow, what a cesspool. It is a cesspool. And the problem is it looks like everyone's having a great time. It looks like, well, it's extraordinary how codependent this is. It's a cesspool. And you've got the good Samaritan who's all happy and positive, and you've got the fraudulent, helpless people who are okay with living in squalor. Some of them are okay living on the streets, literally. And I saw people helping other people living in squalor, and they're all full of shit. And it's this delusion they're in. It was extraordinary. And I was not happy living in that lifestyle. I was not okay with it. So I was busting my ass on skill development and learning from the people who figured it out how to do it. Now, these people where, oh, you just got to learn how to relax. You just no, I'll be like you if I do that. So I learned how to get out of it. And when I did and I got further away from them, I was like, wow, what a deadly scam. And it's literally, it reminds me of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but like the third book, like Restaurant at the End of the Universe, when Zaphod Beeblebrox and Ford Prefect walk into this club of androids. You have to have a good time. You have to have a good time. And it's like an infinite party for all eternity, but it's a club and it's a rave of robots. And they're all like, you have to stay and have a good time. You have to stay. I'm trying to have a good time. I'm trying to leave. And that's the whole moment in this book is them trying to get out. And everyone was like, no, you have to stay. We're having a good time. And that is them. And I got out. And here's the real delusion of it is when you look at it, they look like they're all happy. And in a lot of cases, even the invalid, fraudulent people. And they will go to the extreme. This was another wake-up call is I have seen adults use their children. I have seen adults absolutely ramp up the, oh, poor me, look at these starving children. Children are used as weapons by these people. It's so fucking horrible. Horrible what they do. And the good Samaritans go right into it. Oh, I love helping people. No, you love satisfying your ego. And the thing that the good Samaritans and the helpless scam is doing is they're all delusional. They are absolutely oblivious to what their situation really is and that there's no obstacles. There's no obstacles. And this is absolutely a void of logic and education. It truly is a void of knowledge. They don't want to leave. It was amazing when I gave them the course, when I laid it all out, I watched them go, yeah, thanks, no thanks, and they shut down, and I'm like, so let me get this straight. You're miserable, you're unhappy, but I give you the free material to walk through the process, and it's simple, and they still wouldn't do it. Bottom line is they don't want to. They are full of shit, and I called their bluff. So I'm going through my own journey, and it took me a long time. And this is the other thing, is I held on to them so long because I was like, oh my God, I don't want to leave anyone behind. And then I realized they're happy there. They really are. That's why they're staying. And part of the scam is them pretending like they're not happy, but they truly are. Because when you're not happy, you get the fuck out. I wasn't happy. That's why I left. And that was another massive wake-up call was, oh, see, I was unhappy, so I got out. If they were that unhappy, they would leave. And they're not. So I left, I got out, and then I got to see them from that point of view, this point of view, this point of view, and now this point of view. And I'm like, wow. And the more I get into this point of view, the more I can realize, I see how full of shit they are. So I'm over here and looking back, the people who harmed me the most were the Good Samaritans, the friendly advice, the I'm just looking out for you, the people who tried to save me non-consensually. Like the Good Samaritan is the most toxic person in the world. They truly are. Because, and this is why, I would meet an abuser and there's one guy, abusive as fuck. I got his number and he was with me maybe 2 days. 2 days. I met this other person 6 months because she was a friendly Good Samaritan. The friendly Good Samaritan, and it was because of her that I realized, oh, there's the friendly Good Samaritan who's actually really toxic. That's actually where I learned this from, was the amount of disabling helping does. And I was caught in that, oh, if I this was amazing. Oh, the science that poured in. I could feel the motivation draining from me. They target your comfort level. That's what they do. Is they make you comfortable with filth. They make you comfortable with dependence, and they make you comfortable with being disabled. Literally, they make you comfortable with disability. They make you comfortable with squalor. They make you comfortable with begging. And I felt it. I felt it. Highly toxic. And I recognized that. I felt it come in. I felt my independence just go away. I literally tracked it. It was a ratio, it was a frequency, and I was able to track the rate of frequency. And it got to a certain point, and I went, I've got to get out, because I can feel my own independence literally being broken down because of this Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritans are literally creating the fraudulent, helpless people who are not helpless at all. What they are is addicted to the comfort of being saved. They are addicted to the comfort of being saved. It's not even saved. It felt like mother coddling. They're addicted to mother coddling. And that was really it, is they were addicted to mother coddling. And I have never in my life been mother coddled. Never. Gen X. I was the child who was thrown out into the wilderness and told to drink out of the hose. I was the child who went off into God knows where for hours on end, and my parents never knew where I was. Gen X, Lord of the Flies. Like, mother coddling did not exist in the 80s. We were the generation where our parents had to be reminded, do you know where your children are at 9 o'clock at night? You know, that was my generation. So mother coddling is not something I'm familiar with. It's not something I understand. It's not something I've ever been exposed to. Mother coddling. And there is a true addiction to this. There is a true addiction to mother coddling. And for the first time in my life, I felt it in this 6-month period where she swooped in, saved the day, swooped in, saved the day. And it was like, oh, this is nice. And I was able to relax. And I went, whoa, I know what this is. This is a mirage. This is an oasis. I know exactly what this is. I got to get out. Like I knew what it was. As soon as I felt it, well, I took scientific measurements of it with frequency and all that jazz. I used physics to measure it and I went, I got to get out. So I got out. And I knew because I could feel the addictive centers in my brain turning on. And I am very anti-addiction. I never wanted that dependence in my brain. So whenever I felt it turn on, I went, whoa, nope, that's gone. Because I can literally feel the hormones and chemicals in my brain. They show up at different locations on your brain. And once you know which location turns on, you can make a mental note of, oh, I feel this over here. This is where it is, by the way. It's like over here. That's the addiction center. It's definitely, yeah, it's like right in here. Whenever I feel this part of my brain turn on, I go, whoa, whoa, no. I know what that is. Because that's the part of my brain that never turns on. So when I feel that part of my brain turn on and I was able to track it and go, oh, that's associated with, no. So this is where I mapped out and I looked up where things happen in the brain, and then I could feel them happening in my brain, so that when I feel the hormones and the secretions of my brain and the synapses firing, I know what's going on with my brain. So whenever I felt addiction turn on, I beelined out of there. And that's what I felt. That's how I was able to go, oh, I know what that is. That's addiction to comfort, because that's what turned on in my brain when I was going through the mother coddling process. So this Good Samaritan literally started to provide comfort, and that turned down my tolerance for filth, squalor, dependence, disability, and begging. And I went, oh, no, we're getting out of this fast. So I did. And when I got out of it, I was able to, again, get that point of view where I was able to look at it, see it for what it really was. And that is really when the big picture just clicked into view. And I went, I see what they're doing now. You've got Good Samaritans, and you've got a lot of people addicted to the comfort of mother coddling. And because of this unknown addiction to mother coddling, to comfort, it's literally an addiction to comfort. It drops your quality, it drops your standard. And then it drops your standard right through it bottoms it out. And it also increases your tolerance. For garbage. So it was extraordinary. So you have comfort, you have low standard, you have high tolerance now of filth dependence. And it was funny. It was about 2-3 days ago where I just lost it. And I'm like, I'm all done. I'm all done with my situation. I'm ready for the next one. And as soon as I did that, like abundance flowed. It was extraordinary to see me go from point A to point B. As soon as I said, no, I'm not wanting this anymore. I fucking hate ABC. It was extraordinary to see how that come in. It was beautiful. So I flipped sides. It moved me over. And as soon as that happened, the floodgates opened. And I'm now in this direction. And it's all about adjusting your knob on your standard. So looking back at helplessness, and this is really what's going on with getting help from people, is these Good Samaritans, they are absolutely delusional to think they're doing anyone a favor. They're not doing anyone a favor, because I've been on the other side of getting help. And every time I got help, it literally adjusted my addiction to comfort. So the Good Samaritans don't realize that what they're really doing when they're helping people is they are tampering with the addiction of comfort. And meantime, the Good Samaritan is getting that you now have value, and their ego of worthfulness is being fed. So the Good Samaritan is addicted to the ego of helping others, while the helplessness are getting nourished with this new addiction of comfort. And this is the true codependency that's going on between ego and comfort addiction. Ego, comfort addiction. Now, this is the groundwork. This is narcissism. This is the other side of narcissism that people do not know about. So then you've got this other part of narcissism where that's the toxic, that's where it gets abusive. That's the next level. And this Good Samaritan beggar is just, oh, it's so fucking toxic. It's so fucking toxic. And it's not that they want help. They want the addiction to comfort. That's what they want. They want to get their comfort fix. Because I gave them help. The actual, this is how it's done. And they don't want that. They want the addiction to comfort. They don't want help. They want a surge of relief for their comfort addiction. That is what they want. It was so mind-blowing. And then I've got people in my life who have this addiction, and I'm looking at them now going, "Oh, now it's like a completely different point of view of there's another addiction at play here." And this is the other thing is, and this is amazing, is when a person is struggling with an addiction, they there's five. I have counted up to 5 addictions. They've got a comfort addiction happening. That's really the addiction. They have a control addiction happening, an influence addiction. They have then 3 visible addictions. So you've got 3 visible addictions, and then you've got these other 2. You've got an addiction to comfort, and you have an addiction to control. Those are the 2 invisible ones. And then I looked back at all addictions and I went, those are the 2 common denominators, people. Those are the 2 common denominators. All the other ones, you've got people who are cutters. That is an addiction. The people who self-mutilate, that's an addiction. If you have a food disorder, binge eating, that's an addiction. That is actually an addiction. It is dysregulation plus addiction. It's an addiction to food and an inability to self-regulate. So looking at all these different variations, porn addiction, video game addiction, I'm looking at all of them going, wow, what you're really doing is addiction to comfort and addiction to control. That's really what you are dealing with. But if you don't know you're dealing with it, you're never going to get out of the loop. This addiction to comfort is easily the most toxic thing I have seen. Absolutely. And it's like the first one. That's where it starts. I don't have a control addiction. And this is interesting. I don't have a control addiction. That is where I solved it. But then I felt the addiction to comfort and I went, son of a fucking bitch. The addiction to comfort happens first because the addiction to comfort comes in and then you have a desire to control the comfort. So that's really what you're trying to do is you're trying to control the comfort. The comfort addiction is fucking lethal. It's very potent, very, very potent. And I'm going to say it again. The only reason why I was able to detect it was because I was able to map out the juices in my brain and go, oh, this is turning on. I know I need to move. It was so fucking powerful. And I was able to immediately get out of it. But it's literally a relishing, feel-good hormone rush of, okay, now it's going to, and it adjusts your standard and increases your tolerance. It's literally an increase of tolerance and a drop of standards. It was extraordinary. It was absolutely extraordinary. So this is why when I look at help, it's the most deadly toxic thing there is out there. It is literally the pathway to all of this crap, like just pouring out. It's extraordinary. So I'm going to be doing a lot more on addiction to comfort, breaking that down and analyzing it. I'm going to be dropping that over in my addiction course. And holy shit. And the best thing about this also is I knew it was a catch-22. It's one of the 3 catch-22s that's taking place inside addiction cycles. So the fact that this includes the addiction to comfort, it's not just I thought it was just an aversion to discomfort. So there's like, I have a whole lot of things on how to manage discomfort, how to prepare for it. So now that I understand, oh, it's also the addiction to comfort. Oh, that opens the door. This is huge. This is going to do so much. I need to write a book just on addiction, and really this is what it comes down to is this is the bitch that is addiction. So thank you so much. And may the kindest of words always find you.